16,953. That is the current subscriber count. We are getting close to 17,000 subscribers. Invite your friends, neighbors, relatives. If you have children, sign them up for YouTube, subscribe them to the channel so we can break the 17,000 mark. I want to welcome you guys to another one of my live streams. This is not the Ready, Set, Go preview show, not in any way, shape, or form. It is indeed Comics Today. This is a show that we do on Wednesday to celebrate the best day of the week, that being New Comic Book Day. And in a moment, I am going to go to the chat to see what it is that the live audience that is viewing may have picked up at their LCS. And if you want to give a shout out to your LCS, feel free to do that as well. We are going to dig into, I think, an interesting topic over the course of this show. Somebody reached out to me with this interesting analysis that they did that caught my attention. And as they were talking about this analysis, I started to connect all kinds of dots to some conversations that we have had previously here on the channel. And so we're going to have a couple of guests on to talk first about this analysis that was done, and then potentially how that analysis or the outcome of that analysis might connect back to some things that we spoke about just a few weeks ago. And maybe I'm connecting some dots that should not be connected, but I am going to try to make that magic happen, and we'll see how close we get. As a reminder, this live stream, if you're watching it now live or if you're watching it back on replay, is going to be rebroadcast on the podcast. And you can find the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, whatever it might be. You search for Regie Collects, and you should be able to find me there. And you potentially will find 100 or so episodes of this show, because there's a lot of content that is out there for people to enjoy and to take a little bit of Regie on the go. So with that, I am going to head over to the chat real quick to see who is in here. And then again, if you picked up some stuff at the LCS today, let me know what you picked up. And if you want to shout out your LCS, you can do that as well. Before we get to that, I want to pause for my man, Dennis, graphics extraordinaire right here. This guy has been behind a couple of different projects that I've worked on. Shout out to Dennis, Kingpin Comics. Reach out to him for your graphic needs. Hello from Croatia. Hey, welcome, Bohan. I think that's somehow you might pronounce your name, Bohan. If I have butchered that, you have my apologies, but greetings to you all the way in Croatia. If you happen to be in here for the very first time, if this is your first live stream, make sure you let us know that as well so that we can greet you properly. All right. Scrolling down through the comments here. Ty Brute, how you doing? He said, oh my goodness. We may get into some of this. I am going to go out on a limb here and say that I disagree with you. I'm going to say that I fundamentally disagree with you that comics are dying. You know what comics are? Comics are a $1.28 billion industry. That is what comics are. Comics are not dying. People have been saying comics are dying for decades. And that goes back to your mother, who probably threw some of your comics away previously. Comics are not dying. We have to stop saying that type of stuff, because it is not true. $1.28 billion does not go away. There are people that will say that manga is crushing comics. Manga sales in North America roughly the same amount that comics actually sell. And just for transparency, when I say comics, I am talking about comics, floppies, graphic novels, and digital comics. They're all rolled together, and you can actually see this information on comichron.com. The data is there. In 2020, comics sold $1.28 billion in North America alone. In North America alone, it is not going away. All right, moving on. Let me see. Liger Style, how you doing, brother? The name change throws me off. It really does. I was about to say Liger King. Now it's Liger Style. It is good to see you. Phil Tastic Up is in here. He just did an unboxing, I do believe, of the Swoldier supply box. The very first Swoldier supply box rolled out. Here's the thing. Something is only a clickbait title if you don't actually substantiate what is being said. And I promise that I will substantiate this notion. As you just saw, there are people that do believe that Marvel and DC are dying. They do believe that. People believe that comics are dying. It is not clickbait if we actually support what is being said in the headline. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Oh man, I mean, you have to take some Reggie on the go, and I do love some fries. I do love some fries. Bohan says that he is indeed new. Welcome to you, my friend. It is good to see you. Steve says 24 books and only 4 variants. Had to get the Alex Ross Punisher and the Little Monster #1 variants. That's what's up. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Fight the Good Fight. He picked up 15 comics today, including Captain Carter 1, Sabretooth, Han Solo, and Chewbacca issue #1, and lots of other goodness. Shout out to you, brother. I'm sure that your comic shop loves you with 15 purchases. Jeremy, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you, man. He picked up Punisher 1 and Devil Reign issue #5. There you go. The content is good. The content is good. And sometimes when you tune in for the live stream, even the host gets a little feisty. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Scrolling through. Don't get me fired up, Brute. Don't get me fired up. I'm so fired up today. L. Smith, how you doing? He says big haul today. 33 for him and 8 for the wife. Just to highlight a few: Thor 23, Venom 6, Spawn 327, and others. He picked up the Punisher 1. What you guys think of Punisher 1? I saw a thumbnail from a man, Jim Mint, that made me feel like maybe the Punisher 1 with the Punisher with the weird skull and the swords might not be the jam. I'm curious what you guys think about that, and I will throw this up on screen. I want to make sure that I pull it all the way through. Ty Brute says that he was just joking and being sarcastic. I read it the wrong way and I got fired up. I got fired up because I do read a lot of comments, and I can tell you for a fact that there are legitimately people that believe that. They legitimately believe that it is going down. And again, I throw it up on screen to make sure that we don't paint Ty Brute with that broad brush that we are potentially painting others with. Gavin says Thor and Punisher waiting on a 9.6 of Thor 337. That's what's up. Congrats to that pickup. Scrolling through, looking for more comments about what you guys may have picked up. Steve White is giving a shout out. There you go. All right, scrolling through. Comics are alive and well, no doubt about it. Scrolling through, I am way behind on the comments. See, I got all fired up. Kevin, how you doing? He picked up Naomi, Punisher, Ant, and some back. I will tell you, I read, what was it, issue 1 of Ant under Image, and it was not bad. I enjoyed it. I have not picked up any other issues, but I read issue #1. It was pretty good. I went back, of course, and read some of the older Ants, and I enjoyed those as well. I did enjoy those, and he's shouting out Liberty Comics. That's what's up. Scrolling through the comments here again. Shout out to the Gibbon Gang and to Tina, the OG Blue Wrench. Well done. Chuck is coming in loud and clear. We see you, brother. Jeremy gave up $25. That's what's up. There's a comment here about Captain Carter is out. Let's go. Scrolling through. Rush, my Canadian brother, how you doing? He says 29 books this week, big week. How many of those were variants? I don't think you're a variant guy. I could be wrong, but I'm curious how many were variants. Scrolling through some of the comments here. What is it? T-20 books is a great haul, no doubt about it. The Comic Bug. There we go. Redondo Beach. Love it. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna scroll through some of the comments here. All right. I think I am pretty much caught up. Going to have faith in Jason Aaron's Punisher. Loving the Alex Ross cover. There you go. That's what's up. Caleb picked up Eternals #2, 9.4 arrived. Hopefully you got a good price on that, because I think that the price on that book has actually come down big time. So congrats to you on that one. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and segue. We're going to go ahead and segue into the topic at hand. And again, part of what inspired this show was just some of the conversations that I have with people behind the scenes that capture my attention, start me to noodling on different things. And despite the title of this live stream, are Marvel and DC dead? What I will tell you is that I personally do not believe that comics are dead. As I stated earlier, I believe the data would suggest that comics are anything but dead, given that they have sales of around $1.28 billion as of 2020. And my general feeling is that potentially that number has gone up. If you think about the number of people that have come into the hobby over the course of the pandemic, we could assume that potentially sales are even more robust than they were year ending 2020. So we will have to see what the data says about that. But my feeling is that there's a lot of people that are still coming into the hobby, a lot of people that are picking up comics and graphic novels and things like that. So the number could be higher, but ultimately we will see. Now, part of the reason why I named it this is because I think potentially Marvel and DC are maybe at an inflection point. Maybe there is an opportunity for them to evolve and to change, or maybe they will give rise to something else. And so that's kind of what I was alluding to with that particular topic. But the thing that caught my attention was a conversation that I was having on the Instagram with our very first guest, who is one of our wonderful neighbors to the north, my man, Mark. How you doing, brother?
Good, Reggie. How are you?
Mark, this is the first time that we have spoken. I think I've seen photos of you, little small photos. It is good to see you full-faced, full screen.
Well, don't make it too big screen.
Say that again.
Don't make it too big of a screen.
Yeah. I don't want to see my pores, so I tend to shrink it down just a little bit. But I'm glad that you could make time to join me on the show. So
my pleasure.
I am curious if you can give us a little bit of a snapshot of this analysis that you did, and we'll kind of break it down. But what was the analysis that you performed that you sent over to me?
Well, I was looking at my pull list, and because my LCS loves me, I have 55 titles on my pull list. And I was thinking,
wait a minute, hold on. Shout out to your LCS. What's the name of the LCS, brother?
Dark Horse Comics in North Bay, Ontario.
You have 56
books.
55 books on your pull list. I'm going to go ahead and say that your LCS loves you.
Well, they give me presents at Christmas. Anyway, they're pretty good, and they make sure I get like nice pieces like that. Alex Ross goodness. Anyway, so I was looking at my pull list and I started to think, okay, I've been collecting comics a long, long time. And I was born in the early 60s. I grew up with Spider-Man. Like, I was alive when all of those legacy character bad guys were introduced. And like, I thought like Electro was cool, even with the star, like that was all new to me, which I wish you could all experience. But sadly, we'll get into that. But so I looked at my pull list and I thought, what am I reading? Just to see. So out of my 55 titles that I get, 9 are Marvel, 4 are DC, and the rest are all independent. And 19 of those 32 are Image.
So what was it that sparked you doing that? Was it just natural curiosity to evaluate like how you were spending your time? Like what sparked the thought?
The spark, well, because also my LCS loves me, so they give me like I get these every month, right? So I go through the catalogs to see what's new, what's coming down the pipe. I go online, I look at the different publishers to see, and really, I'm not seeing anything that makes me go, I want to get a hold of that. I'm really interested in that title. So I really wanted to get an idea of where my reading tastes going, because if we'd have had this conversation 25 years ago, I would go to my local corner store to the rack and I'm pulling Marvel off there. And I know there's a few people listening who are DC fanatics right now who are throwing something at the screen, but I was mainly a Marvel guy. I mean, some DC stuff, but that was what I read. And we didn't have the independent titles like we do today. And I was, well, what am I reading? What's catching my interest and why did I pick up this Marvel? So what Marvel titles am I reading right now? What DC titles am I reading right now? Why is that?
Yep.
And that's why I did that analysis.
And basically, and I can't do fast math in my head, but for those that just joined, because I just saw a surge of people come into the room, I'm talking with Mark, who is my Canadian brother to the north, and we are talking about this wonderful analysis that he did, in which he looked at his massive pull list of 55 comics to evaluate what it was that he was reading, and he did a breakdown of Marvel, DC, Image, and others, right? And it's hard for me to call Image and Independent, but we'll lump them together. But if someone is in here that does fast math, can help me out with the percentages, with that percentage breakdown, I would really appreciate it. But essentially, Mark, what I heard you say is that maybe 80% of what you are reading right now is non-Marvel and DC comics, and you grew up as a Marvel guy, right?
Right, exactly. And so why is that?
Yep.
So
that's the next question.
So I looked at the titles. The best thing to do is to look at the titles of Marvel that I'm still reading, and why am I reading those? So, well, the one I just showed you, The Punisher, is because I'm an Alex Ross junkie. So it doesn't matter whether it's DC, Image, if Alex Ross does it, I have to have that copy. But
yep.
I am reading like Strange Academy. Now, why is that? And that's because there's new characters in that book. There's new story arc. Like, yes, Doctor Strange, and yes, Dr. Voodoo, and that, but all of those students are all new characters. They introduced a new bad guy for the first. When was the last time Marvel introduced a new bad guy? Since Venom and Carnage? They haven't. Like, they may, but I haven't noticed them. And I saw this new bad guy, this gas lamp character, and I went, well, that's really interesting. What's he all about? He looks cool. He's got a little flunky that looks kind of like, Jabba the Hutt, kind of sitting there, kind of, squid. What's that all about? And when I go through my DC and Marvel books, it's the new unique ones that they're doing. The DC title, like the one that I love, as soon as I saw it, I was drawn to it, was Nice House on the Lake.
Oh, fantastic read.
Just fantastic read. Just a fantastic read. And it's not legacy.
Yeah.
And that's the key. And I really think that's the key. Like, I went through my catalogs, and in the May catalog, DC has 61 new titles to look at. 27, more than 27 of those were Batman or related to Batman.
So let's dig into that, because you just made mention of something that they're not legacy. What do you mean by that? And why is that an important criteria for you to throw out in this conversation, that they're non-legacy books that you're reading?
When I say they're not legacy, they're not for, like, DC. They're not Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Aquaman. The interesting thing about Aquaman, like, before the movie, and it turned out to be a good movie, you could not give away Aquaman books. And now they're like, woohoo, we got to have an Aquaman book. Yeah. Green Lantern was one of those most popular characters they had, with a plethora of stories you could do. Yeah. And then the movie tanked. Yeah. And there's not even new Green Lantern stories out there, except for
Far Sector, which and I read a couple of issues of that, and I thought that was pretty good. I mean, I've tried to get into Green Lantern, and I struggle, right? Just to be honest. But Far Sector, I kind of enjoyed that, at least for several issues,
And they're trying. And then Marvel, the same thing. Like, Marvel is Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Conan, the Hulk. It makes me kind of smile. Submariner, 2 years ago, Submariner, you could buy easy. Yeah. And those are some of the very first editions, because it wasn't hot. Yeah. But those are legacy characters. And I used to laugh when I was reading a series, or a new series from Marvel. You could almost, like, you should have banked money on it. Like, within the first 1 or 2 issues, Spider-Man was going to make an appearance.
Oh, for sure.
Because you got to put him on
like most of the 90s, Spider-Man, Punisher,
you got to put him on the cover to draw in new readers.
Yep.
And I always used to go, oh, this series is done, because if the series has been going on for a while, and all of a sudden you saw Spider-Man pop in at the end, you went, well, this is probably the last of this book, because he's there for the birth and he's there for the death.
For the death knell. So let me ask you this: it is part of the challenge with you, or maybe let me phrase it this way: is part of the appeal of some of the independence, the freshness of the stories that are being told versus the regurgitation of old stories, old characters, right? Is that part of it? I don't want to put words in your mouth though.
No, but that is like fresh new stories. Like you look at some of the stuff the Image and the other independents are putting out that, you know, like some of them are a little heavy right now on vampires, though I know you love that. But you know, well, you know, like this new one, Little Monsters, it just came out, right?
Yeah.
It's vampires, which I went, oh yeah, Reggie's going to buy that. But it's an interesting take on the story of the vampires. And when you read what it's all about, I picked that up before there's even any hype because I went, this is an interesting story. Out was another one.
AWA.
Interesting story.
Yeah.
The Me You Love in the Dark.
Yeah.
Well, this is an interesting spin. What's this all going to be about? And though I'm leaning toward horror, but you know, like these stories are new and fresh and brand new characters. They're not tropes. They're not, you know, stuff we've seen before. And sadly, like I'm looking at the Marvel and hey, we're getting another Silver Surfer book. You know, we're getting another Punisher book. We've never lost a Wolverine book. When you look at Marvel's catalog, there's 73 titles. 14 of those are Spider-Man related. 14 are X-Men related. 7 are Star Wars. I mean, they're coming out with Secret Invasion again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like the only non-legacy book that I saw was Captain Carter,
which is brand new, and people have spoken about that one here.
And it's brand. And why are people speaking about it? Because it's brand new.
But is it good? Right?
We don't know yet.
Yeah, that is the unknown part. Like I haven't read it, but is it the fact that it's just new and fresh, or is it that it's good, or is it too early to tell? Like Nice House on the Lake, just amazing, but you didn't necessarily know that with issue 1. Like you didn't know that right away.
You didn't. And the thing that DC did right is they let it run. They didn't. So for example, Marvel really irritated me a little while ago. Because I'm a Conan guy, and shout out to Matt Woods, who's like the master of all Conan.
Hold on. I can promise you, he just looked at the TV. He just looked at it. As soon as you said Conan, he was like, oh,
what?
You know?
Oh, is he still talking? So Marvel tried Black Agnes. I don't even know if anyone even saw that title.
No.
So this was about a year, almost 2 years ago. Black Agnes. They introduced her in a Conan story about the Serpent Crown. And I went, this is another Robert E. Howard character. This is from his stable of characters.
Back in 1930 something,
yeah,
right?
Back in 1930. Strong female character. Like, you know, sword and sorcery and swashbuckling. This would be really good. She was supposed to do a 9-issue series for Marvel. 2. Because they didn't even introduce her. They didn't say from the minds or from the history of, they didn't link her back to, they had no marketing at all. They just put her book up on the shelf and expected people to pick it up.
What do you, I mean, you just highlighted something there, a couple of things, honestly, that Marvel is potentially doing wrong, right? They're not necessarily rolling things out the right way. They're not showcasing them. They're not allowing things to also develop and to mature, because sometimes, you know, the writer and the creator need to find a little bit of a rhythm, but they also need to find an audience. They need to find an audience where they can be at home. Are there other mistakes that you see Marvel and DC making that you want to flag besides the couple that you just kicked off there a second ago?
Well, and I don't want to slag the companies because I think they're trying. I really do. And I don't think that we need to have a RAP in front of their mailing address yet. But I can tell you the independents are nipping at their heels, because the independents are being like Marvel and DC. When you look at those averages of legacy characters that are the main, you know, food source for their titles. Yeah. They have a stable of amazing characters that they don't use.
Why not?
I don't know. Like, have you ever heard of the Shroud?
I want to say yes, but I don't know why I know it.
Well, he was in a couple Marvel team ups, a very interesting character, spooky, weird, kind of like before Cloak, same kind of idea.
As soon as you think of Shroud, you think Cloak, because that's essentially what he is. But continue with your thought though.
So there's this character that had all kinds of interesting potential and backstory that you really didn't know, and they never used him. And I don't know why. And so, but we're going to get another Wolverine book.
Yeah.
And that's the mistake I think that they're doing, is what makes us money, we think, regardless whether it's a good story or not.
Yep.
And, I talked about Spider-Man for a little while. It was the same thing with Wolverine. If we want to sell a book, put Wolverine on the cover.
Yep.
Don't flesh out where these characters came from. Like Sabretooth, as a bad guy, has got a brand new book, but his very first appearance was fighting Iron Fist. Yeah. Like, why? Where? Huh? Like, because he's Wolverine's bad guy.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. He was Iron Fist. And they don't go back into their history and flesh this stuff back out. They do it amazingly well in their movies. They're not doing the same thing they could do in their comics. And I don't think DC's doing themselves favor either. Like, look at the stable of characters that DC could use and don't.
Yep. And I think that's the argument that you've heard from some people out there that have, we've had a lot of conversations over the last few weeks about like diversity and the legacy characters and things like that. It almost seems like they just want to take, one character's audience and slide it right over to this other character, because they seem to be risk adverse. They just want to do, if you will, the sure thing. And the sure thing is let's take Spider-Man's audience and slide it right over to this new character that is just like Spider-Man, right? Would you agree with that? Or like, is there more to it in your mind?
I think there's a lot. The risk management that they're doing is exactly what you just described. They're taking, okay, we know what this character is. We know they have a huge audience.
Yep.
We're just going to slap a different face on that costume, and we're going to sell just as many books. And when it doesn't work, they kind of like, well, we never really did that. Like,
or they can say, we tried it.
Like, Spider-Man India. Anybody read that?
Nope.
They did 4 issues. It was the same idea, but it was in India. And it was, I got the series because I went, well, this is going to be cool. What are they going to?
Mark, you read some crazy stuff, bro.
Well, and that's why I do, because I want to know what this stuff is. Like The Good Asian by, out by Image. It's winning awards.
People love that.
And but how does the independents, if you look at what the independents do, they work their heinies off to get you to be interested in a book.
Yep.
Now, is The Good Asian going to be optioned? I don't know, but I can tell you it is a heck of a read.
Yeah.
And it is got no capes. It's got some superheroes because of what this guy's doing and the story, but it's got no capes. And Marvel and DC, though not all of DC, because Nice House on the Lake is the exception, right?
Yeah.
Marvel and DC, they're afraid to let the spandex go. And it seems to me they don't want to take that risk. They don't want to take the number of characters they have and what they could do and make a gamble. Like, why not let Black Agnes run? And I know it's money, but let Black Agnes run for 6 issues and see if people discover her.
Yeah. Because
they're looking for examples of strong, different roles, different people in different roles. There was one that I thought, why would you just blew it, boys? You had a chance here to bring in a whole new audience. You've got a guaranteed audience with Conan readers. Solomon Kane is another character that they ignore.
I have a whole stack of those in the 100K collection.
Well, I'm a Solomon Kane fan. If you ever just want to get rid of them, anyway.
But it's interesting. It's interesting that they are, you have this wonderful example of what appears to be working, right, with the independents, and you almost have this flight. You have the flight of these wonderful creators from Marvel and DC that go to the independents to explore and to experiment, while at the same time taking the paycheck from Marvel and DC for doing the same old stuff that has been done for decades. And the question is, why? Are they not paying attention to what's happening? Are they not looking at people like you who have been lifelong readers of comics that are now spending 80% of their money with independents when they historically have been a Marvel guy. They have to be looking at this.
You would hope so. They should be. And I think what you see is when the writers and the artists go to the independents like say, try something.
Yeah.
Because they're not afraid of risk.
Yeah.
They're not afraid of brand. And I think that's the fear with DC and Marvel. They're afraid of impacting their brand negatively. Like the red light, the emergencies, if somebody has snuck something into a Marvel or DC comic that got past the censors or the editors, and how they lose their mind to get all them off the shelf. We got to get them off the shelf. Well, if you gave some of those incredible artists and writers that they have
freedom,
some freedom.
Yeah.
What is it?
To explore and be creative.
I wonder what their boardroom meetings are with the writers. Like, what's your favorite idea? If you had a chance right now, Reggie, and we go, here you go, you're going to go write a comic for Marvel. What would you write?
Well, I'm going to write Spider-Man. I'm going to write Spider-Man. I'm going to just be honest with you.
Just as bad as they are.
hey, I'm a Spider-Man fan through and through. But I love spandex, man. I love spandex, but I will also tell you that, like you, I find myself reading a lot of independent stuff. And I find myself reading that stuff. And I will tell you, I don't know a whole lot of the characters' names. And I don't care. I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the story and I'm enjoying the art. I cannot tell you the name. Wait a minute. I was about to lie. I can tell you the name of one character from Nice House on the Lake, and that's Walter. I think that's his name, right? Other than that, who cares what their names are? I'm reading it for the story and I'm enjoying it. Same thing with Out. Fantastic. I haven't read the last issue yet. But it's a great story.
Philadelphia.
Great. There you go.
There's another
good read by Rodney Barnes.
Yeah, another great read. And but I think that they need to push the writers. Marvel and DC need to push their writers into the boardroom and say, we want you to come out with 3 new characters, not connected to anybody, new backstories, and we're going to do like a run of 6 or 5 issues on each one of those, and market it to us. Because I love Marvel. I don't want to see Marvel fail.
Same here. I love Marvel and DC. I want them all to succeed. Well, let me ask you this last question for you. Do you think that they have the intestinal fortitude to do that? Or have they become too much of a commercial machine to allow that level of creativity and freedom?
My instinct says, yes, they have gotten too big.
Yep.
My hope is that, because I know that all of the executives from Marvel and DC are probably like part of the Gibbon gang in hiding. I'm hoping that they watch this every week and they've got notepads out and they're scribbling and go, that was a really good idea. We're going to do that. And you won't get any credit. You should get lots of credit, Reggie, but you won't. I'm hoping that they will start to look at Mark here, because and this is just my opinion, and that's just how my reading tastes have gone.
Yeah.
But I've been reading comics since I was could start to read.
Yeah.
And as you can see, that's been a while, right? And I don't think I'm alone.
Yeah. And I don't think you're alone either. I'll be honest. I don't think you're alone either. I think there's a lot of people that probably appreciate the sentiment of what you just shared there. And I'll be honest with you, the white beard is fantastic. It really is fantastic. To some degree or another, I can't wait till mine goes white, because I think it'll be a dope, mature look for me. I'll get a smoking jacket, the whole 9 yards.
Well, yeah, that's why the cardigan, trying to look presentable.
It's a whole
You don't want to know what
brother.
I got. You don't want to know what I got underneath here.
You are right. You are right. It is a whole vibe. Mark, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, man. I mean, we go back and forth every day, every other day on Instagram, but this has been a wonderful conversation. I absolutely enjoyed it. If people want to get a hold of you, and I know there's a couple of your buddies in here that you talk to every day, but if people want to get a hold of you and talk a little bit more, where can they find you on the social media?
They can find me on Instagram. Easy enough. Just there, look my name up. And if they really can't find me anywhere else, all they have to do is tune into Regie Collects on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights, because I'm usually in the chat being a mischief maker. And if you can connect with me there, and I'm also on Discord. So
There you go. A couple of comments here. Beards are cool, and Mark dressed for the show. Yes, he did. I hope he is not. I really hope that he is not.
I'm
Uh,
not.
Mark, it has been an absolute pleasure, brother. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
And I did not cut him off. Did you see? I'll be honest with you. I invite people on and I don't really know what's going to happen. And I'm always thrilled with the quality of guests that show up on the channel. And if you are tuning in late, we are talking about whether Marvel and DC are in trouble. We're talking about whether they're in trouble. Potentially, they will either do two things. They will either change what they are doing, or they will be potentially surpassed by some of the independents. And Mark just walked through this analysis that he did that demonstrated, as a lifelong Marvel fan, how he is spending a significant amount of his money on the independents. And I think that there is a reason for it. I think that it is an opportunity for Marvel and DC to maybe learn from the independents to maybe do some things differently. Now, let me also say that I am not talking about the demise of comics. I do not think that comics are going to go away. I do not think that Marvel or DC are going to go away. I think that they have a unique opportunity to change how they're doing things to continue having success for the next 80 plus years, right? I fundamentally believe that comics are not going anywhere. But I think that we are at a point in which the independents could potentially have a really good run. I really do fundamentally believe that. And again, when you have lifelong Marvel fans that are switching things up and going more independent, there is a reason for that. And so as Mark kind of talked with me over the last few days about his analysis that he was doing, I started to connect all of these crazy dots. I started to connect all kinds of dots to conversations that I have had previously with other guests. And I wanted to have a guest come back on to continue talking a little bit about something that we started a few weeks ago. And honestly, Mark just kind of hit the nail on the head several times. But I want to welcome to the show my man MVP. How you doing?
What's going on, man? Thank you so much for having me again on such a great show. So I appreciate it.
And again, I don't know why I invited you back with that voice. Okay. I don't understand why I did it to myself, but it is good to see you,
It's
Max.
the microphone. It's good to see you too, man. And Mark, like you said, he crushed it. He knocked it out of the park. So I appreciate his sentiment and what he was saying on here just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, he did a wonderful job. He really did. So one of the things that he hit on that you talked about a few weeks ago was lazy writing and lazy editing. You know, as you listen to what Mark was just saying, I think in many ways he supported the comment that you made several weeks ago. But I am curious if you can add a little bit of additional texture to the observation that you had before that Mark just kind of supported about lazy writing, lazy editors, and maybe lackluster performance by both Marvel and DC.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll even dock myself a point for that, because I do think that though there is lazy writing, I think it also is kind of a product of the industry right now, because we see like a lot of great writers doing a ton of different books, and so they're almost kind of spread thin, which means that their focus can't necessarily be on one book to really make this Batman title kick. They are so great at their job that they're over 5 different books and they're like writing like crazy, and then due to that, the quality of the book goes down. So like you guys were saying, story really drives a lot of these sales. I mean, if you look at Marvel, they did the 5-issue mini of Beta Ray Bill from Daniel Warren Johnson. No one's heard of Beta Ray Bill, but DWJ, Daniel Warren Johnson, did such a great job of writing and really fleshing out this character. We saw such a beautiful story come to play, and it sold like crazy.
When was that? That was a while ago, right?
I want to say that was 2020. And chat, you guys can correct me. I'm not exactly sure, but
I know that there was a Beta Ray Bill mini series that I read that I thoroughly enjoyed. Like, I didn't know anything about Beta Ray Bill, and there's a lot of Beta Ray Bill fans out there, but I read that and I was like, this is actually pretty darn good. Like, I get the Beta Ray Bill fascination now, but I cut you off. My apology. Continue with your thought.
No, and yeah, I didn't mean to kind of go off on a tangent on Danny Warren Johnson. I think he's an amazing writer, but I think what we see with Marvel and DC is um, they are spread very thin, which then doesn't allow the writers enough time to write or the editors enough time to look over every single book and maybe catch things that the readers have time to look over and go, man, that really does not resonate, or this really does not seem like the character that I know and love. And so I think it can tend to be laziness. Maybe that is due to pay, or maybe that's due to a lack of interest. But it also is, like, I think a product of just maybe being spread too thin in the industry with having to publish as many books as they are.
And you read what, Marvel, DC, and Independence? Yeah.
I do, correct. I actually have my top 10 indies right next to me. I mean, we're talking Ultra Mega, Murder
Awesome.
Falcon from Danny Warren Johnson, Geiger, Echo Lands, which may be one of the best illustrated books of the year. Absolutely beautiful. You have books like from Bad Idea, like ENIAC and Tankers from Robert Venditti. And then you also have, I think you guys were talking Conan earlier. You know, the Sumerian series has been fantastic. They do these Sumerian series from Ablaze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you previewing your next video? Is that what's happening right now?
Previewing my next video. I
You're like,
wish.
I just happen to have my top 10 indies sitting right here. If you had to break
Might
it
as
down,
well.
if you had to break it down,
Mhm.
are you reading more indies or more Marvel or DC? If you had to like throw some percentages at it, what are you reading right now? I'm curious.
I do tend to side with Mark that I am actually reading more indies.
Mhm.
The bulk of that coming from Image.
Mm.
I think we're seeing a lot more of, because there's so many books that are being produced. You really can allow yourself as a reader to kind of say, okay, what am I looking for? Am I looking for something superhero? Am I looking for something more grounded? Am I looking for more horror? And through Image, through Marvel and DC, you can have your kind of pick of any of these. Um, I have just happened this past year to realize and recognize, wow, a lot of these do come from indies.
Why
But
is
I don't
that?
know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
where I was about to go. Like, why?
mhm,
What is, because for Mark, it seemed like what the draw was for him was the freshness, was the newness
mm,
of this, of the stories being told, these new characters, not regurgitation of stuff. And I'm curious, as someone that you've been in and out of comics, definitely not as long as Mark, but I'm curious, like, what is it that draws you to a non-DC Marvel book and that captures your attention?
I think one of the greatest things about indies is that you can follow creators.
Mm.
So if I read a, like Danny Warren Johnson, for example, when he did Beta Ray Bill, I think a lot of that story itself put him on the map because people were so used to Marvel,
Mhm.
and then they go, wait, he's got Murder Falcon, he's got uh, I think I want to call it. Um, Extremity. He's got plenty of other stories that he's done. He's got a wrestling comic that he's about to put out. And so with these beautifully, really well written and illustrated, because he does the illustrations as well, stories, I can now kind of follow a creator and know that every single time I'm going to get a quality product.
Mm.
And it's just going to be something that he can throw out there and say, hey, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
And he can either do a 5-issue mini or a 12-issue maxi series or something. So I think it gives the reader an option, whereas Marvel and DC may have to kind of stick to some sense of uh, not normality, but they do have to confine themselves to a sense of, okay, these are the characters and the confines that we need to work in because of the MCU or the DCU, or because the market dictates this. And so we kind of have to stick with these IPs or these characters, these mantles. And that may be a reason why Mark was saying earlier how they're not able to kind of make some new characters, like wholly new,
Yeah.
without any type of mantles or anything.
S-
Um, so go
So
ahead.
what I hear you saying is that potentially Marvel and DC have lost that creative spirit, and that creative spirit may have been given way to commercialization. the need to have a hit, if you will, versus the freedom to be creative. And like Mark, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want to try to put some texture around what you're trying to describe there. Is it that they are risk averse, that they are too commercial and less creative?
I think that definitely plays a huge role. I think they have to, they definitely, I think one of the things that I was reading in an article earlier is basically the lack of time to become familiar with some of these characters. And so that brings that kind of, like you said, risk averse nature to things, because if they can only give us maybe like a Yara Flor who only lasted for 7 issues, they put her out there for 6 issues. If they get good sales, or if they get that traction, they can extend it, or they can put new writers or new artists on there. They can do a lot more things with the character. But if it doesn't work out, they kind of have to pull it because of finances, because of probably maybe corporations above them that are saying, hey, we need something different. And that can stunt the creative process, because now, instead of allowing to just say, hey, let's just start throwing things at the wall, see what sticks, and we have the backing from this, they might not have that ability, because of the pricing of a book, or the creative integrity of a new character or something. I will say, I have a quote that I pulled for us today, if you don't mind me
Please.
reading it, from Denny O'Neil, who is a legendary DC editor and writer. But from one of the articles that I was reading earlier, he says, one of the things I learned in the industry was to keep the essence of the character intact, and then let everything else evolve to service a kind of funhouse mirror of contemporary reality, but keep the core there. You can't change that. Even when you introduce new characters, you have to find a way to make it feel familiar. Most fans, and especially retailers, who are probably the biggest fans there are more comfortable with what they know and what they have loved all these years. So I thought that's like a really great balance of what he basically said in his quote, which was allowing things to change and allowing your thought process to be challenged, whether that's intellectually or philosophically, but having the core of the character stay the same. And I think that's kind of what people are looking for in the Marvel and DC, is to have either a core character that they know will be there every single time that they read the book, or bringing in a new character that can then challenge them that way. So I think there's a balance that they kind of have to figure out with the finances. It's a lot of different things, unfortunately, and I wish I could pinpoint it and say, it's this.
It's definitely a challenge. I mean, I can tell you, I work with a lot of creative people, and what I found works best for creative people is guardrails. I give you guardrails. I may throw out an idea or two as to how something could be done, but then I step away because I'm not a creative person. And so I don't want to stifle the creativity of a person that is way more creative and qualified than I am. But it's like, as a business person, I try to frame it up, and then I give them the parameters, and then I say, go be creative. Go be creative within those confines. And what I've found is that oftentimes what I get back is way better than what I wanted, but it's still within the parameters of what I need it to be for my part of it. And this literally came up today. I gave guidance to an agency that does work for me of what I wanted. They came back with 4 examples. And the second one I saw was like, that is money. It is way better than what I envisioned. And it's almost like Marvel and DC may potentially need to learn that, hey, we're not going to hammer you with all of these parameters and boundaries. We're going to let you be free, because that seems to be part of the appeal of the independence. The ability, a couple of things, the ability to be free, to be unencumbered, but then, to your earlier point, be able to reap the benefits of that success. And I think potentially that's why you see the surge of independence that are happening. And one of the things that strikes me as really interesting is that, and I said it to Mark, when it comes to the independence, I have no clue what the characters are. I have no clue what the characters' names are. I'm reading it for the story and the art. And I'm wondering whether that is an observation that maybe you've had as well, that it's not really about the character. It's more about the story and the art. And to your earlier point, who the writer is, because you're going to get something of quality. So let me pause to see what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said about giving parameters to a creative mind. Like I said previously in our last video, I come from a Marine Corps background. So, when I go into a place of work, my employees or my coworkers are having to kind of say, "Hey, man, we're not in the Marine Corps anymore. We're not in the military. Like, give us some slack here, or like, give parameters, but don't be too
Yeah.
infringing on things." And I think that's tough to do, especially for a larger corporation, to allow that creative process to happen. Because when a creator feels free enough to say, I can create this thing that I really want to bring to life, and I this is how I want the story to flow, and I think when they have that ability, you really see the passion behind the work too, and like the reader can sense that. Whereas if it becomes too corporate, it can then feel like a conveyor or an assembly line of just
Yeah.
kind of, hey, we just got to put this thing out every month, just get it done, get it finished. Is it inked yet? It's not inked yet. Okay, just
Yeah.
really run over it real quick. Who cares? Just put it out. And that can be to the detriment, unfortunately, of some of the bigger two corporations. And so, like I said, I really love your point of giving parameters, but still allowing that creative mind to work in an environment and a space that allows them to challenge themselves, but also give you the product that is going to be the best thing possible for you as the owner, and then later on the customer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you think that we could continue to see a rise of the independents? And I struggle calling Image an independent, and I say that because they don't consider themselves an independent. They own 30% of a $1.28 billion market. I don't consider them an independent, but for the sake of simplicity, do you see the independents continuing to gobble up our money, right? Or do you think that potentially DC and Marvel will get wise and start to do something different? Like, what does your gut tell you that the future may hold?
I definitely think DC and Marvel are trying to work things out right now, because we're looking at we just saw DC's future state, which was going to be 5G. So we know that the gears are turning. I think they're just trying to figure out what it is that really is going to stick with readers.
Yep.
And we're now seeing the Death of the Justice League title, but will still have the main characters in their own series. So this may be another thing that they're going to try, maybe stick to continuity within single character arcs, like in Action Comics or Superman. But in the Justice League, we're seeing a totally different, multiverse or something. And so maybe they might be trying that with continuity. But that's one thing that the indies don't necessarily have to adhere to, is a continuity, and they don't have to adhere to any type of nostalgia or
Shared
legacy.
universe. They're
Exactly.
unencumbered.
Yeah.
They're unencumbered. And it's like, even Marvel tried that, I guess, a couple of times, right? Where they thought about rebooting their entire universe to give a fresh start. There was it the Next Wave? I think it was called, that whole line of comics where they just had like a completely separate universe. Like the challenge might be that they have so much legacy that they cannot get out of their own way. And like, think about how many times they've tried to kind of sort of introduce a new character that people are like, nah, I'm going to pass on that. And so are they a victim of us poo-pooing things? I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is,
Yeah. I mean, there's a, one of my friends always says, like, read what you want and collect what you like, or something like that. It's like a phrase I tend to hear with retailers, with fans, with kind of everyone. And I think it rings true. Because when you get into the LCS and you start finding the things that you really like, you are going to continue to pull that, put that in your pull list, and you're going to continue to read that. And that will then kind of gather word of mouth, and then we'll kind of grow there. But like you said, there is there is a sense of, is it our preference, I guess I should say, of do we want our superheroes to be superheroes and in this way? Do we want our indies to be this way? And if they break that mold, we're not going to buy it,
Yeah.
or is it like we want everything to have creative freedom? I can't speak for every fan. I like a good balance of my men in tights, my superhero tights and capes,
Yeah.
but I also really like new stuff that kind of really is out there,
Yeah.
and really challenges you. Like Ultra Mega is just so otherworldly, and like it's a great book if you guys haven't
Shout
read
out
it yet. But
Skybound. Shout out Skybound. Come on, man. Ultra
yeah,
Mega. I was up on it, brother. Come on. Search Reggie Collects Ultra Mega. I was on it, man. No, because I have a
I love
relationship
it.
with Skybound, so they send me stuff. So
Oh,
that's how I was
great.
familiar with Ultra Mega.
Oh,
But
that's
you know,
so good.
at the end of the day, I think that you and I can both probably agree that we want Marvel and DC and the industry as a whole to continue to thrive. We
Mhm,
want them to continue putting out really good stories
mhm.
that capture our imagination and give us that escapism that we're looking for. And at the end of the day, I think most fans will agree that they want nothing but the best for the industry as a whole. So, would you add anything to that? And again, I like to try to end things on a positive note. So would you agree with that? That that's what people mostly are hoping for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for those who, because we were saying earlier in the stream, for those who say Marvel and DC are dead, or the comic book industry is dead, um, as a comic fan, I would hate to say that. I
Yeah.
would hate to see a death of a family member or someone that I'm close with. And so, with that being said, I think the best thing that we can do, and to end kind of on a positive note, is if you do feel that way, or if you are seeing like if you do think that that's kind of going down that path, I would urge you to find something that you do like, because they're out of the 600 titles that may come out in a month between Marvel, DC, and every kind of independent. I know that there's something that you can go put your money to and support. And if that's the
If you
thing,
have an open mind,
correct. Yes.
because
If
I
yeah.
had somebody say to me today, most comics over the last 10 years are trash. And I'm like, so first of all, that's factually incorrect. Like you can't say that. And why would you? Why would you want to poo-poo Chris Baker an entire decade of hundreds of comics that people love, that people have created with love, and
Mm,
that people have read with love? Like, why would you do that? It just
yeah.
doesn't make sense. I get it because it's simple. It's simple to say it's
Mm,
all trash. It's all trash.
yeah.
Well, have you read it? Have you read it? Probably not. You've probably
Yeah.
made some gross assumptions, which is it's not necessarily how you want to go through life making gross assumptions about things, because oftentimes you will be incorrect in that. But
It is a very bold and overarching statement. It's very um it gets the clicks, if you will. It gets
yeah,
people to respond when you
yeah,
say, well, just everything is trash.
yep,
When you come at it, from more of a logical standpoint, you go, well, maybe kind of this era was maybe a little bit lackluster than these other eras, but overall, we're still seeing this type of sales analysis. So you can make it more boring, if you will, but it's more realistic, and I think people will listen to that argument as opposed to why even try? Everything just
yeah.
sucks.
Everything
Because
sucks because it
yeah,
doesn't. It doesn't.
right.
$1.28 billion in sales in 2020
Mm,
for comics in North America. That is in comics, that is graphic novels and digital. $1.28 billion. The industry is not going anywhere. And my guess is that the number has actually increased even higher now, with everybody still kind of sort of sheltering in place. MVP, I want to
mhm.
thank you, brother, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Where can people get a hold of you on the social media should they choose to get in touch with you or to hear more from you?
Yeah, of course. My YouTube channel is just MVP Maxfield Von Priestley. It's just my full name. You guys can spell it out. Most likely it'll come up on there, or just MVP and comics, and you guys can find me there. I've been doing a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff recently. I've been doing a lot of. I have a comic review coming out about speaking of indie comics, of an indie comic that will be releasing from a great author. So just little things like that that I really love doing. I wouldn't have surrounded my room with comic books and memorabilia if I didn't believe in the industry and I didn't believe in the creators and the people who love comics that they want to see succeed. I think we as fans just have to kind of help that process and find what we like and then put our money towards it to support it. So, but yeah, thank you guys. And thank you again for having me on.
And you spent good money on those statues back there. I'm looking at Superman over your shoulder, brother. Like, that's a full body. Yeah, that's
couple paychecks I had to save up for, but he's definitely worth it. So
it's a nice statue, brother. That bicep
great
is
investment.
no joke. MVP, it has been a pleasure, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks again, man. Take care.
And I did not cut him off. I think I am finally, after like 160 some odd weeks, getting the 160 some odd, getting the hang of not cutting people off at the end. And maybe, just maybe, we will reach 17,000 subscribers, because when this show started, we were at 16,953. We are getting close to 17,000 subscribers. Fingers crossed that we can get there. A few other things that I want to make mention of before we wrap up, because I am running short on time here. There was some major announcements that came out over the course of the day. I started getting all kinds of alerts because I have alerts set up on various pages for comic book related news. We got the word earlier today that Black Adam and Super Pets, both involving Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, have actually been, the times have been changed, and it says to reveal that 2 DC films in 2020 had their release dates pushed back, and that being Black Adam and also Super Pets. Super Pets is going to be released on July 29th, which was the original date for Black Adam. Black Adam is now pushed back to October 21st, and The Rock actually announced this on Instagram. So that was the first news that actually broke of those 2 movies. And then the announcement that came out, I do believe shortly thereafter, was that Shazam 2 is actually being moved up. So Shazam 2 will actually hit, I want to say, in December 16th, in fact, is when I believe Shazam is going to be coming, which in my mind, moving it 6 months, I'm leaning towards the fact that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson may actually be in Shazam 2, because he's been talking about having a crossover with Shazam. So maybe we'll get Black Adam followed by Shazam 2 with Black Adam in it. I don't know. But then we also have some changes to The Flash and Aquaman. Both of those movies have been pushed back to 2023. So several movies in the DC world that are kind of jockeying for position. We don't quite know why this is happening, but it is a thing that I wanted to make you guys aware of. The same can be said for the Swoldier supply box. I wanted to give you guys an update on that. The Swoldier supply box is over 2 pounds of comic book supplies and comics that I am putting together every single month. And this month's box is a pretty awesome one. We have a couple of prints. Well, we have one print. This is the print right here of Moon Knight, just in time for the Moon Knight debut. Gabriel, the guy that is the creator, the artist behind Distorted, actually put together this print for me of Moon Knight. This thing is incredible. There is 1 print per box that is going to go in there, along with this right here. We actually created, we took the cover art for the Guide to Smart Comic Collecting, and we turned it into a trading card, but not just any trading card. On the back side of all 4 trading cards, there is some helpful practical information that is available for people. This one actually helps with determining the page quality of your comic. If you were thinking about grading it, this is a helpful, informative card that can help you to figure out, is it white? Is it off-white? Is it off-white to white? Is it cream to off-white? All of those details are on the back side of it. We have 4 cards that are going to be coming out. This month is going to be this one right here. Subsequent months will, of course, have them. The other thing that I want to make mention of is that the Swoldier supply box is available as a subscription. So you can actually sign up on regiecollects.com, get the Swoldier supply box every single month. Jam-packed full of goodies, including some discounts, or you can actually buy an individual box. So that's the new thing. An individual box is available. So non-subscription, individual box is available in the shop. So you have 2 routes to go. The individual box, I will tell you, is a little bit more expensive because the subscription cuts down on my processing time. It cuts down on things, makes it a little bit simpler for me. So there's a slight price difference between the one individual box you can order and the subscription. All of that information is available at regiecollects.com. Hopefully you guys will have some interest in picking up some of this goodness that will start shipping mid-month. And I will tell you there's a few other announcements that I'll be making as we get closer to the ship date. All right, with that, I'm going to give a huge shout out to get some foil. I try to put man, hold on. The holograms are expensive. Okay, I'm not even going to tell you how expensive this stuff right here is, but I do love some foil and some holograms. So you never know. You never know what the future can hold, but there is some good stuff that is going to be happening. And before I wrap up, I also want to let you guys know that we wrapped up earlier today the first rounds of the Black Lightning cover contest that is going down on Discord. We every single week we will have 2 covers that face off. You have an opportunity to vote for the best of the 2 covers, and every single week when you vote, you will get 1 entry into the giveaway that will be done at the end of this month for a stack of Black Adam goodness from my man Dave Bratton, who did the cover for the Guide to Smart Comic Collecting. So if you haven't yet hit Discord today, I encourage you to check it out. The new bracket is up, so you have an opportunity to vote for your favorite Black Adam cover. And even if you don't like Black Adam, you should vote because you have an opportunity to get some free stuff at the end of the month. So that is the incentive. Head over to the Discord server. There's a link in the description with all of the details there. All right, with that, we are going to wrap this thing up. He is a good guy. Shout out to both guests. Mark did a wonderful job, and MVP showed up and delivered just like the first time. As always, if you guys need to reach out to me for whatever reason, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.